they call it fine tune the motors, because there's motors.
Fine tune.
I don't know how to do that.
Good to go?
Yeah.
Let's take jiu-jitsu, one of your others. Is there anyone you look up to in that world? Is there anyone who you seek to emulate when you plan your journey?
Not so much emulate, but there's a lot of guys I'd like to pick their knowledge from and learn from. Like I have my mentor, like Thomas Lesboa is the one that I train with like the most, just like the head coach.
Yeah.
We have other coaches there, like you got Kev and Norm and like Cena and stuff. Like those are like the other coaches. They're also black belts and brown belts and stuff like that. But like in terms of pros or like legends, like there's only a few that I really look up to.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's like kind of like the cream to the crop, like at the top. That's it.
Nice. I ask because there's a lot of artists in general, creators, but we tend to focus on writing a little bit more here, and it kind of relates to that how I became thing we talked about that I see as being hot cancer, basically, is that a lot of the people that we look up to lived pretty insane lives, lived pretty remarkable, spent pretty remarkable times on this earth. And especially musicians, you have painters, you have anyone that's kind of dabbled in the arts and made it their passion. They're usually seen as some kind of twisted, tortured kind of soul like that, it takes a pretty strange person to have this thing throbbing inside of them, this message they want to send out, and just tear it out and then show people while it's still throbbing and foaming and oozing, Take like Hunter S., Bukowski, George Orwell, O.G. Hemingway, the Russians, the French. Like, there's a lot of writers who have had some powerful addiction problems, heavy drinkers, coke heads, event-laden lives, people that have gone through hell and tasted heaven and lived to write about it. And we love those authors. We love those creators. They're amazing. They give us this passion. They give us this thing that we want to try and capture for ourselves, these feelings. But as much as we can vigorously, celebrate their substance abuse and their craziness and want to share it, it might not work with us. We have to build the steps to our own journey. We have to find within us what's important and what's unique and what's special, and do it in the way that we can. They were wild people. They were unique individuals. That's why there's only one of them. That's why they have biographies written about them. That's why they have legions of fans and people that absolutely are infatuated with them and their work. But that was their journey. A lot of them didn't choose it. A lot of them faced a lot of fallout from their drinking and drugs and the early childhood traumas and the terrifying situations that they were in and the harrowing escapes. I mean, look at Hemingway and his wife roster. A lot of people shouldn't try and do something, a drug or a particular thing, just because someone else did it. It's the old, would you jump off of a bridge kind of scenario. What you can do instead is just focus on your own personal journey. What happens to you? What have you experienced? What makes you special? How do you take the mundane and make it seem amazing? I mean, my favorite author of all time is Franz Kafka. He was a law clerk. He was, for all intents and purposes, a sickly and troubled individual from his experiences with his father in his childhood. And he wrote about very boring things. He wrote about bureaucracy, and he made it seem horrific. Like if you read The Trial, The Castle, even Metamorphosis, it's the basis of those things are extremely simple and extremely quotidian. But he had an ability to flesh out and just to dig deeper and pull something throbbing out and show it to everybody and say, this is my take on the hierarchy. This is my take on mediocrity. This is my take on all these things. And You don't have to follow the steps of a fiend or a booze hound to try and live an exciting life. You just have to try and expunge what's exciting out of yours, or celebrate that mundanity, celebrate those everyday struggles, because people will relate with those. While we look in awe and fascination at some people for their crazy adventures, we still want to be able to relate with it. We still want to be able to look at this piece of work and be like, I can see myself in that. That piece that author tore out of him and is showing it to us reflects to me. I relate to that. It doesn't mean that it's boring. It's just that it might not pull you immediately, but doesn't have to be a causticity or a difficulty in your life to be able to write about it. Maybe some DMT for sci-fi writers, I don't know. Yeah, you like that, don't you? But a lot of people transform their everyday struggles or everyday hardships, or even just bullshit, boring, sitting at a desk thoughts, into something fantastic. And I don't use that word lightly. I mean, they turn it into something that might have castles and goblins and ghouls and flaming swords and seraphim. Could be all that. You just have to focus on your creativity, and you have to focus on finding the power in yourself and recognizing those aspects of your life to bring it back to you. A lot of writing today too is about relatability, and even those sci-fi and those fantasy novels and all the crazy things that happen, things still come back to you. Why we like Bukowski and why we like Hunter S. and why we like Hemingway isn't because they were Lotharios, or it isn't because they were, they died in a bottle or with a rifle in their mouth. It's because what they said affected us. It was those times where they were sober, then when they were alert and being able to pull out these acute feelings and raw emotions that made us such fans of their work. And anyone is capable of that. They just have to listen.